Hey, everybody. Live from Denver. It's Friday night. Let's make sure that we're all good in the hood here. Looks like we are. Where's that? There it is. Excellent. Hey, everybody. So happy to be joined by my critics and friends this week. And as you can see, also joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
Yay! We have come together once again in this special place at this special time. And you are joining us for a little bit of sanity, a little bit of reason in an otherwise pretty unreasonable world. And yeah, we got some things shaking and popping, Dylan, for sure. Thanks for joining us if you are here, either live or later on when we're watching this on Rewind. But I always enjoy the live company from you guys.
Yeah.
It really makes things interesting. And with open mic nights like we're doing tonight, it'll be even more interactive than usual.
Yes, it is hot in Denver.
Oh, yeah. So let me tell you, triple digit hot. This week we have a bit of a travel advisory this weekend of don't do it because it's real hot out there. And yeah, I imagine hey Anthony, I know it's burning up down there in Texas as well. I'm sorry to hear. I believe your governor is off on an Asian excursion of some kind, and so anyway, everybody's having a great time down in Texas. I heard it's like really unbelievely hot down there, and we're really burning up here. But
can't imagine what it's like down there. Jeez.
Yeah, whoa. But we've got our AC units going right now. We are hopeful that things will continue in that direction. I can just kind of keep it controlled that way. Because we are in hot season right now, no question about it. And I guess it's going to be like this for another couple months.
Yeah. Oh, months for the hot. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the heat. Yeah, 89 degrees. Yeah, no, we're definitely having record temperatures here right now. And it's rough because, I'm out mowing the lawn or doing yard work or whatever. And now you got to kind of schedule it for morning times because I'll tell you, it's kind of reminiscent of some of my time, on the hot tar roof, tar in the roof of the main building, and Leb Hall at the complex on the RPF during the summer. It's kind of reminiscent of those days. Like, wow, it's really, really hot out there. It's only 70 at the beaches near Big Blue. Wow, nice. So I guess LA's having a little bit of a cool spell right now, which is nice. I think we get a lot of our weather from the East Coast. When my dad always calls from Oregon and says, when they have water coming down in a few days, we're going to have that water coming down somehow. It seems to be that way. Anyway, weather occurred everywhere today, amazingly enough. And so if you're alive, you may have experienced some of that. Okay, do you have any kind of a quote of the week for us?
I do.
Good. Let's get to our quote of the week.
Kind of something we're going to sort of talk about, and also something that's on a lot of people's minds. Here you go. The strategic adversary is fascism. The fascism in us all, in our heads and in our everyday behavior. The fascism that causes us to love power, to desire the very thing that dominates and exploits us. Michel Foucault.
Foucault, wow. Okay, yeah. Old French philosophers. Yeah. Yes, exactly. No, that's really on point as a quote for this week. Actually, we got a little surprise for you guys tonight. We're going to do a little video review, and we're going to go over some things that I thought you might find interesting. I hope you do. I sure do. And I have things. We have things to talk about with this. But before we get to any of that, we still have our usual beginning of the week things. This is news to me, Anthony. Baldwin's charges got dropped. Last time I checked, it was Baldwin trial day 3. So they decided to drop it, huh?
Interesting.
That is very interesting. Let me just see real fast because that's an unexpected turn.
It's been an interesting case going back and forth.
Yes, it has. Judge dismisses involuntary manslaughter case. Okay. Wow. Okay. Dismissed involuntary manslaughter charges, agreeing with his lawyers. that prosecutors and police withheld evidence
Oh, wow.
on the source of the live round that killed Rust cinematographer Helena Hutchins in 2021. 3 days after the trial began, Judge Mary Marlowe Summer ruled after hearing evidence on the defense request made earlier on Friday. Good. Boom. So he's out. I am very happy about that. I know Alec Baldwin was an executive producer on that set, but I don't think that makes him personally responsible for every single mishap on the set. And it seemed that from earlier rumblings, I remember months ago, that there was some thought or reporting about how the people, I think it's New Mexico, the guys who were bringing the charges were perhaps doing so for name recognition and credit, that kind of forwarding their own career kind of thing. But that's just something I heard.
Right.
I'm not trying to say that's absolutely the case. But good news. I'm happy about that. I know Alec Baldwin is a controversial figure. He's got a temper, no question about it. And in public, he's said some things that I certainly wouldn't say. But I'm going to tell you that I have seen very few people in this world who are as funny as he can be.
He can be hilarious.
Holy cow. And he can also be an intensely serious dramatic actor and has done amazing work. So he's very good at his job, and as an entertainer, as an actor, as a comedian, and that's how I've always thought of him. So it really bummed me when that whole thing happened, and it looked like he was partly responsible for that. But it looks like, after hearing all the evidence, including some evidence that was withheld for some reason, that he's been cleared of all the charges, and that's really good news. I'm happy about that. Yeah, and he didn't pull the trigger, exactly. With prejudice, excellent. Okay, good. Okay, Red Pill 3000 emotion test from Scientology. Is that an actual thing? It really is. And it looks exactly like the stress test as far as I can tell. Tony and I talked about that this week, and it's looking like a new, sort of marketing pilot test or something. That's usually how they go about doing these things, is they will pilot at conventions or seminars or whatever, or out on the street. They'll try new things, and maybe it works and it sticks, and maybe it doesn't. And it looks like that's what the Church of Scientology is doing right now with the free emotion tests. So good times on that. I have no idea, Red Pill, if Metamucil is a good product or not. Mel, what do you think? Is Metamucil?
I don't know if have I ever used it. I don't know.
Yeah, don't know about that. Okay, now on the heels of that good news, let's go ahead and kick in our Snuggles Not Struggles cam. There he is, our little furry bundle of joy. Mel took
Playing with his little toy.
Yeah, what was he doing here?
He's got his little toy, his little I don't know, I guess that's an alligator.
Aw.
So cute.
Yeah, you can't hear it, but that thing squeaks a little bit too.
Squeaks, yeah.
Yeah, it's a squeaky toy.
It's not his worst squeaky toy, but it definitely is squeaky.
That's right. And you can see he's a little furry right now. He's growing it back.
Yeah, and he just got a bath today. That's why he looks so clean and fluffy.
That's right. Such a fluff monster. But he was really chill. You should have seen him earlier than this. He was got the zoomies. He always gets that after a bath.
Yeah, he runs around the house all crazy and
totally crazy. But we should have gotten a picture, because Mel got him this wraparound towel thing that he wears. Basically, it's like this wearable towel.
I do have a picture,
and it is so cute. Yeah, but I can't.
I know you can't put it on there now, but I do have a picture.
Anyway, it was just adorable. Imagine him basically in like a cat, in like those kind of coverings they put on horses. Oh, there he is, looking right at us. Oh. Team. Okay, that might have handled it.
Something's happening.
Something's happening here.
Got another ad. Okay.
All right, skip that.
Here we go.
And there we are. Okay. There we go. Thank you very much for your patience. If you stuck with us, I see some people popped off, but looks like we're back. And, yeah. And you guys just confirm for me, we're seeing ourselves back on the screen in real time.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're back and everything's okay. How is it for you guys? Welcome back. There we go. Okay. All right, good. Maybe folks will come back, but we're going to carry on. I really apologize for that. It's Friday night, and I guess the neighborhood bandwidth is overloaded right now. And, good times all around when it comes to Comcast. Thank you. Yay! Or no, are we on Verizon now, or we're back on Comcast?
No, we're back on Comcast.
Yeah, we're back on Xfinity. That's right. I could soapbox for quite a while on the vagaries of Xfinity, Comcast. She's a former employee of said company, and oh my God, we have issues. Anyway, thanks for sticking with us here, guys. All right, now we did our Benson cam and
Correct.
Everything else.
Yep.
So let's get
into it.
The beef. Listen, I was really excited about this, and this was something that just came across my plate in the last 24 hours. And I wanted to share it with you guys, and I wasn't sure if this was going to take up the whole show or not, but then this video, it was kind of like, yeah, it looks like it might take up some time, but I think you guys are going to like this. It's Comcastic. Stop that, Stuart. You stop that right now. So I've been talking for many years. I feel a little vindicated today. And you're going to see why, right? And you know how when you do something in your life that you think is important, it's important to you, it's important to what you're trying to do even with your life, maybe professionally. You have something you really want to do, or you're trying to get something done at your work or whatever, and it's just people are just getting in the way, or telling you to stop, or telling you it's not important, or telling you don't do that, or nobody wants to hear that, or any of that. This is how it's been for me for years whenever I try to connect politics or ideology with cultic belief or cultic phenomena, behavior, right? What people get up to. And it really drives me crazy because, as far as I'm concerned, and especially over the last few years, certainly since COVID, and I believe well before that, we have been watching an awful lot of very extreme and very cult-like behavior on the left and the right, going all the way back to summer 2020 and COVID and times prior to that. A lot of freak out. The thing I wanted to emphasize here today is that the central emotion that we have been sort of played with and played about with ourselves has been fear. There's been an awful lot of fear-mongering out there for many, many years now. There's been a lot of worry and anxiety on both ends of the political ideological spectrum, and this was made even more clear to me in this video we're going to go over and talk about today. So I thought we should just kind of get to that. Let's pull over here. I'm going to have to come over here. We're going to go to a different page, and here we go. And then we're going to throw this up. Let me turn up the volume a little bit so I'll be able to hear as well. And we're going to there's a TikTok video. This is only a few minutes long. It's really not that long of a video. But it's a woman who is an ex-Christian conservative evangelical who has a few things to say about her beliefs, her former belief system, and her political views as a result of some of what's going on right now and her upbringing. And I thought this was really, really informative, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And so that's what we're going to do for a few minutes here. So let's throw this up here.
I've been trying to figure out a way to make this video for a while, but with the Supreme Court news that just came out today with Trump, I figured today is better than any other day. I voted for Trump in 2016, and I was deep in the Christian conservative world for a very long time. And here are some things that I know when it comes to that group of people. Before you want to come at me and be like, I hate you, you ruined our country for voting for Trump, it's something that I regret every single day, but I also learned so much coming out of that journey, and I feel like I do now have insight into how.
So what we have here, I'm just following along on the subtitles as we're going because of the delay here. So what we have here is somebody who sounds and is acting exactly like a former cult member, and she is self-admittedly so, as you'll see here, with this stuff.
How conservative Christians think. It's something I regret every single day. I hate that I'm going to have to tell my children someday that I voted for that man, but that's just the consequences of my own actions and not taking initiative to research and study things that were going on in our country before then. Okay, I was raised Christian, evangelical, very conservative. Basically, being a Republican in that world is in alignment with being a Christian. If you are a Democrat and you are a Christian, you're definitely kind of considered an outcast.
This point I wanted to address about the outcast here. Let me make sure that we're getting sound and everything. Yeah, okay, we're good. So this point about you're considered an outcast. This was really interesting to me because it was the first of a couple points she makes that are the exact same points I could make about people on the left in some regards, okay? And I'm not putting value judgments on any of this right now. I'm just pointing out this fact that she's talking here about how if you're in this world that she was growing up in, if you are a Democrat, it's culturally bizarre and unacceptable for your ideological group to be okay with that. And that's the same thing with on the left a little bit with, you're a black conservative, you're a gay conservative. What? How is this possible, right? How could you? And it almost feels like this sort of cultural betrayal. I've certainly witnessed this. I'm pretty sure you guys probably have too. And it's very similar, over on the left side of things as it is on the right with what she's saying, that this ideological thing can really cause you to be an outcast in your own community. And we can't devalue the importance of that when it comes to why would people stick with a belief system or an ideological system that maybe they see isn't really the best or the thing they want, but their social group demands that they comply with the norms of the group first, right?
And losing that social connection is a huge thing for people, and you don't want to lose that. So
exactly. When we talk about emotional needs, I'm always bringing up community, and this highlights that exact point that exists on the right just as much as it exists on the left, just as much as it exists anywhere else. This is all just human stuff, wanting to belong, wanting to be part of things, and nobody wants to be an outcast. Even the rebel without a cause is kind of like a worn out trope, because it just leads to sort of this individualization and this sort of lone wolf thing and stuff. And people don't really, in the real world, people don't really gravitate toward that like they do in the movies.
Right.
Okay. So carrying on here.
And you're definitely considered to be brainwashed. I'm not here to say Democrats have all the answers. The Democratic Party has its whole set of issues, but that's not what I'm talking about today. The thing that people have to understand is that the people in that particular sect and in that world are in a cult. It's just plain and simple. From a very young age, we were conditioned and brainwashed into believing that our people, Christianity, American Christianity, were being persecuted, and that it was the country's agenda to get rid of all.
Now this part here blew me away because for a number of reasons. One, those of us on the left right now who are looking at Project 2025 and the dictates that it demands are freaking out. And I believe justifiably so. If you guys have been paying any attention to, since we talked last week about Project 2025, it's one of the most highly Googled things in the world right now. People are definitely hearing about this and definitely looking into it. And it is representative of an extreme end of the GOP agenda that the Christian nationalists and the people she's referring to and was once part of very, very much want to enact at a public policy government level. And we talked last week and in my Q&A show about some of the contents of this, that it involves things way beyond social cultural values or religious matters. It has to do with canceling overtime pay for any job anywhere.
Yeah, it's and canceling Medicare and Social Security and things like that. I mean, it's insane. Yeah,
there's really very invasive policy suggestions that are being forwarded as though this is what a good number of people in the Trump administration are going to want to put forward. as policy, officially from the president. And given the recent SCOTUS decision that we also talked about, there's a lot of reason to be concerned. And this highlights a mindset, which and she's going to talk more about this, right? This business of persecution is something that for years, as an atheist in an atheist community, we have laughed at. That concept. I'm just going to straight up open with you guys that we just laugh at. We think it's ridiculous that Christians in this country, who are 75% of the population, would in any way feel persecuted. That just doesn't ring true in any way, shape, or form to those of us who aren't in that world. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think any more than it matters what I think about Xenu as far as Scientologists are concerned. And they don't care what you think. They believe what she's talking about here, that this is a cloistered, isolated world by design, and this is the messaging there, is that we are being victimized by all of society, and that we are on our way out. And when you get this sort of trapped fight or flight response that we see so often on social media, this explains an awful lot of the reason why.
What's interesting is it makes you turn into what you thought you were fighting against.
Exactly. That's where all this goes, because that's what cults are all about. So let's carry on here.
All of the Christian. It doesn't make any sense now that I'm out of it. I'm just sharing what that group of people believes. And they do a very good job at making you really afraid that someday you are going to be persecuted and killed and beheaded for being a Christian.
I mean, literally, you're going to be killed, beheaded. They're coming for your Bibles. Like, what would cause a group of people in the United States of America living under our Bill of Rights, under our freedoms, to feel that they have to adopt fascist level policies at a government level in order to feel safe? What would cause something like that? Exactly what she's talking about. And this Columbine thing was really interesting. Check this out.
Junior high when Columbine happened, and the big story that came out of what that school shooting was not that we need to take initiative and protect children and make gun laws. The big story was a completely fabricated lie about Cassie Bernal being killed because the shooter asked if she believed in God, and she said yes, and she was murdered.
I forgot all about that because it didn't really affect my life or touch my beliefs when I heard about Cassie Bernal being, but I remember that very well. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I definitely remember that. And I think someone, like her mom or somebody, even wrote a book that continued the lie. Someone did.
Yeah. So that lie, right, is see, here's one of those funny observations that is it's wild. It's just interesting to me that you know how we project ourselves onto everybody else, right? So we'll forget things. I'll forget things back in the media and the news, whatever, back in the day, and these people haven't. They hold on to these things. This story kind of comes and goes out of my space, out of your space. You don't think about it much. You don't really assign much importance to it. But they assign everything to it. Oh, no, this is proof positive. This is their confirmation bias at play, that they would want to believe that this is true because they have this idea within this world of persecution. So they need to find instances of that being true. So this whole lie that gets forward about Columbine, she becomes a martyr, hero, symbol, icon, and gains immortality as a result, right?
And they don't sit there and compare it and be like, oh, well, yeah, sure, there was 3 incidents, and then 100 million times there wasn't. They don't think about it like that.
No, nobody does that. You don't do that. I don't do that. Nobody does that, right? Confirmation bias is, let me find all the times that I know this is true to reinforce my belief that this is always true. And it's not, very rarely are our beliefs always true.
Correct.
But we're always putting them out there as though they are.
Lie, but that's not something we talk about. But that story just ingrained the belief that was already there that Christians are being targeted.
Exactly like she describes.
You also have to understand that when you are raised and told from a very young age that you are the only group of people that have the absolute universal truth, it is very hard for anybody to come along and tell you that you may be wrong. Because
as we have been talking about for literally years on this channel now, this exact thing she's talking about has been all that I've been talking about for all these years, is that people will get their, get this hair up their butt about some belief system or some idea, even ideological ideas, even self-help ideas, even business opportunities, and they will things just get out of hand. People just lose their minds and they get overly committed to this stuff. And as you know, right, as she has now come to realize, this is really hard to talk to. This is really hard to deal with when you are culturally ingrained into something that from being when you were a kid.
they have been brainwashed into believing that every single person is wrong. It doesn't matter if you have evidence. It doesn't matter. So when a man like Trump comes along and he begins catering to those fears that are already there and wanting to use their fear of being persecuted to his benefit, to them, it's just the only candidate that makes sense, because their safety at the end of the day is all that matters. Coming out of that world and seeing it for what it is now sometimes makes it harder for me to feel like there's any hope to get through to that group of people, because I knew what it felt like to be in that mindset. In the 2016 election, I fasted before the election so that Hillary would not win, because I had just believed what they told me, that Hillary was going to be the downfall of America. And you have to keep in mind, a lot of these churches have big name prophets that come in and they use the name of God to try to sway the vote.
Now that, of course, is a complete violation of their 501c3 tax exemption status.
Right.
Nobody's enforcing that. Let's just to call that spade out clearly and fully for what it is. No one's enforcing that at all.
Right. You're not supposed to do politics from the pulpit.
Right. Doesn't matter. People do it all the time. And this is part of how this world orientation works, because the authority figures here involve the religious figures, right? This is part of the ideological authority system in this group, and it's been this way for a few decades now.
And when you are conditioned to believe that you will go to hell if you are not following the word of God, that's a really hard journey to go on, to look at the fact that maybe there's another side to this. So there's a lot of tension for me, because I feel like I do have a lot of empathy for that group of people, but I also have a lot of anger at the same time.
All right. Good. Let's go back here to our main screen and pop back over, make sure we're all good here. Yeah. Okay, good. So I think you can see now why I wanted to show that to you guys, right? That really hit me right in the feels in a number of ways. And the first thing I wanted to say is, I'm getting really sick and tired of people telling me, stay in your lane, don't talk about this, I'm not going to stop watching you because you keep talking about this. What am I supposed to say? This is important stuff. And when people like her, and this was on TikTok, by the way, and I think you saw the name of her channel there, you can check her out. When we see stuff like this is 100% in my field.
Absolutely.
This is all I'm about. And so it's really hard. I really have struggled for a long time with, this shut the hell up, Chris. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no right to say what you're saying, and I'm not going to listen to it.
It's like, because they're in the same cult.
I know. I know. But
they don't want to admit to it,
Well, and that's the thing. But I also need to be clear now, like I always am. I always go so far out of my way to try to mitigate this by also saying that I know not everybody who supports Trump or voted for him is in a cult like this. I know not everybody is getting their orders from their local deacon or parish priest or something. I know that. And I'm not suggesting that every single person in the GOP is a cult member or something, but we have an extremism problem right now.
Yes.
We got a real big extremism problem, and we got an extremism problem on the left.
There's a huge denial of it on the right, unfortunately.
But exactly, and that's where we are. suffering, right? I will get a link after the show into the description section of this video to that TikTok. I will try to do that tonight. I will definitely get that posted, though, so you guys have that.
Yeah.
But that is the full video. What I just showed you is everything. And it's very clear, and she is saying exactly what every person who's ever been interviewed by me on my show has said as a former cult member. She is saying the exact same things that every person who's written a book about cults and being in one has said. I woke up, I was in a cult, I'm sorry, this is a hard reality, this is a hard truth to accept. It wasn't easy, it's damn near impossible to try to talk to people in that group, but we got to try anyway, because there is an awful lot of misinformation that causes people to stay fixed in these groups. Whether it's Scientology or whether it's some kind of weird Christo-fascism thing, we need to keep delivering the truth. And that's why I guess I keep doing what I'm doing in talking about this, because I can't shut up about it anyway. But I can't not speak my truth as a former cult member and somebody who lived under, a real authoritarian rule for a good long time, including often, threats or actual carrying out of physical violence. And that is just the Sea Org. That's like what life is like there. And that's happening right here in the borders of the United States, human rights violations 24/7, right in the middle of Hollywood. You have a troubled teen industry that is just scattered all over the United States, in backwoods areas and in churches and places you probably have even driven by on the road and had no idea. And teenagers of all stripes are being kept locked up, mercilessly being indoctrinated and even beaten for their resistance or rebellion against their religion or their parents or whatever social trouble they were getting into.
I've seen that even some of these rich famous people send their kids to those.
Oh yeah. No, this troubled teen thing is
holy.
Yeah. And I've barely talked about that at all on my channel so far. That's a whole nother thing. We've got multi-level marketing schemes, right? Invading business. It's $1 trillion industry. Yeah, it's really that much money flying around. Cults are all around us. And we really should get our head on straight about the fact that cults are all around us. Not everything you disagree with is a cult. Not everything with a weird belief system is a cult. This is why we need experts around to talk about this stuff and not let the general population lose their damn minds, in hysteria over it. There are things that make a group a cult, and there's things that are not culty or not a cult, but they kind of can border on it or adjacent to it or look a lot like it. And then there's things that are not cults at all, but people will call them cults, like wokeism or liberalism. Liberalism is an ideological platform. It's not a cult,
right?
Any more than conservatism is. To call it that, or all the communists are in a cult, come on. We got to talk with more reality about this stuff. So we don't want to dumb it down, but we need to be truthful about this. And we need to realize that it's a very, very, very human problem that any of us are susceptible to, and we see every single day all around us. You run into people who are in cults all the time if you go out in the world. That's the truth of the situation. And some of these cults are religious in nature, and some of them are religio-political in nature. They kind of cross over in both areas. And when we talk about, I've spent hours on this channel speaking with Clint Haycock and Andrew Seidel and others about the very real problem of destructive cults connected with political matters. And people lose their damn minds when these two words are connected, when it has something to do with their own personal beliefs. And you really need to dial it down for yourself so that you can deal with some disagreement coming your way. I've learned to do that as a liberal. I have learned to do that. You hear me being openly critical of my own side all the time. And I didn't used to be that way. You've seen me change over time. And if you haven't, you can go look at my earlier stuff. Back when I was podcasting with Ruth.
Yeah.
And we were all kinds of, hardcore extreme left stuff. And now you don't see that coming out of my mouth because, you know, you can dial it down and you can go, oh, right, both sides have truths and both sides have bullshit connected with them. And maybe if I wasn't so committed, you know, to one side or the other, I could see this and navigate it a little bit more rationally and sanely, just like we navigate religion. Right? What do we want with religion? We want tolerance and freedom of belief, and we want to be able to navigate a religious world where people don't want to kill each other over their differing beliefs.
And they don't want to force you into their beliefs.
Exactly. We don't want any of that. We don't want any enforcement of anything when it comes to religious belief. That's what our Bill of Rights is all about. That is not what the Christo-fascist nationalists want. That's a cult. But we can acknowledge and recognize that that's a small minority of Christians, not all of them. Not by any stretch of the imagination is it anywhere near all of them. So, you know, to go overly broad with this or too generalized, you know, is where we lose, is where we fail, I think. And I wanted to say those things because I just feel so strongly about this right now, that we're being each other's worst enemies out here in the world, and we're all being played. And I'm impatient with that now because of the conflict and the potential violence in our future as a result of letting these cult members get too ingrained into our process, into our legislative and government processes. These are people who want to tear down the separation of church and state. They want to have, you know, their 10 commandments, nobody else's, their 10 commandments posted everywhere.
Nobody else's religious stuff, no Buddhist tenets, you know.
That's right.
Nothing like that.
But we can see that this is a reaction on the part of some of these people, at least, as represented by the video today. We can see that this is based on a false worldview being presented to this group of people, that they're going to be beheaded, that Bibles are going to be burned, that they're going to be killed on the cross or at the stake if we leftists take over. No wonder they hate us so much, right? I would too if I thought a whole group of people wanted to kill me for my identity or my gender or whatever. So just like we have fears on the left of this stuff by the extremists on the right, they have the same set of fears going on, and it's driving an awful lot of this behavior. I'm not saying it's driving all of it. There's a political layer to this. There's an economic layer to this. There's the rich who are in it for tax breaks. That's a whole nother layer. They're not in a cult. They're very much aware of the pocketbook. And
they love the idea of like taking away overtime pay and stuff like that.
Absolutely, right? They're 100% on board with that because nobody's talking about their overtime pay, right? When you're a CEO, it's a little bit of a different system, isn't it? Right? When you're in the C-suite,
you're a CEO, you're getting millions. So
exactly, it's a little bit of a different. When you're in the rarefied air of the upper economic strata of a country, it's a whole different world. Just like it's a whole different world when you're broke ass poor and in the street, right? That's a whole nother world. It's the same. It's wildly not what you would think it would be. You know, you have your stereotypes, and we categorize things, and we think about the rich and the elite and their jets and their yachts and, you know, the Elon Musks of the world. But that's not really representative of what the real life of these people is. And these are not happy people any more than any of us are happy.
Right.
But when they take their anger out, yeah, you know, then a lot of us end up suffering, right? But they're just as human as anybody else, and they have just as many fears and false information and susceptibility to propaganda and nonsense that any of us have. This is why I'm always like, you know, oh, Tom Cruise is too smart for Scientology, you know, they must have blackmail on him or something. No, he's not.
Having money doesn't make you smart.
It doesn't. It doesn't give you 1 point of IQ raise. Having money, right? It has nothing to do with it. And there are some really stupid people who have an incredible amount of money and are worshipped like gods by the, you know, large swaths of the general population.
Right.
Who, you know, that we're just out to lunch on this. It's crazy. Okay, so I wanted to throw those things out there.
Kefish, it's taught in like college political science. There's like some civics classes in American government in high school, but like true political science, that's mostly a college class.
I will say that I felt like my civics classes covered all the territory. I can remember covering the territory of our government structure and systems, but we weren't paying attention, if I'm being honest. Right?
And
like when we were in high school, none of that connected with us. At least that was my experience in a small town in California, that we tittered and laughed at the material. It was presented to us, and an awful lot of us forget all the stuff that we learned in school because it doesn't connect with us. It doesn't have the same importance for us then that experience has given us. Now we know why this is so important to understand, and we see the deficiency in other people, and we're like, what the hell? Did you not pay attention? Was it not taught to you? No, it probably was.
Did you not see the bill dancing around?
Yeah, I'm just a bill and I want to be a law, right? But, you know, anyway, we can kind of look back on some of our education, I think, with... it's a valid question. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to poo-poo the question. It's a perfectly legitimate question. I'm just saying the answer is a little bit more ridiculous than you might imagine.
Well, and I think, too, like, at least for me, it was mostly... The American government and civics classes I took in high school were mostly talking about just the American government. And there was some world history, but it was mostly not talking about their government structures. It wasn't until college, when I took political science, that I really learned about different types of political structures. You know, this is what socialism really looks like. This is what communism is like. This is what, I'm social democracy, those kind of things. I didn't learn that in high school. That took till college.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to connect with the person, and most kids are just not experienced enough for it to really connect with them in any real way, But what does connect with them, and at least, again, this is all just my experience. You guys can certainly pipe in on yours. I'm always interested in that. But my experience was very much... here's pictures of an oppressed nation called China. Here's their quality of life. Here's, their dress. Here's how things work there. Those are the things I kind of remembered or impressed themselves on me. But I could not talk to you until fairly recently at all intelligently about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, or how it does what it does or what it's all about. I didn't learn that, but I had impressions given to me that did stick with me that, we're sort of, okay, China bad, America good. We walk away with those kind of generalized thinking, and I think we can do better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I definitely think we can do better. I'm not sure exactly how, but I'm not that kind of educator, and I don't write,
Well, maybe we could listen to the teachers instead of the admins about school policy and structure, but hey.
That'll be enough of your radical ideas. That'll be quite enough of that, little miss. We won't have any common sense here. This is the United States. Education system. Come on. Come on now. Let's get real. All right. So, those of you out there now, I think I'm going to retitle this from Open Mic Night because that doesn't really tell many people what we're actually doing tonight.
Yeah.
But, I almost want to, in a way, personally feel, ego-wise, I'm all happy right now because I'm feeling completely vindicated. Because if anybody ever comes at me again on politics, I'm going to be like,
show them the video.
Here, go watch this show, right? Watch this show, because it's the same. Okay, it's like that Office meme, right? Politics, cults, it's the same picture. And I'm so happy that I have an audience that actually can see that. Because there's an awful lot of people out there who absolutely cannot see it. And here's the awful thing, is that the only people who can get those people to wake the hell up is us. Because if people don't recognize that there's a problem, they're not going to do anything about it.
Exactly.
So we know there's a problem. We know the nature of the problem. This is my call to action, right? Is go take this information and do something with it. Because it's really good to know about this, but it's even better to go use it to help people and change hearts and minds. And you know how to do it if you've been watching this channel. Now, it's an effort. It's not easy. And don't go start with the worst example in your life of some radical extremist like your uncle or something. at the next family reunion or dinner, don't take on the hardest one first and then give yourself a big fail and lose in trying to help people. You probably know some people who maybe aren't that far down the radicalized, pipeline, but, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. And definitely vote. Yes, Xenu.
Oh, yes,
absolutely.
please.
Please do. I don't know that we've ever had a more important year to do so.
Yes.
Let me chime in on another thing since we're talking about this. Somebody asked me on my Q&A on Sunday about this, and my views have solidified a little bit since then about the Biden question. Should he stay or should he go? And I believe that the people who are pushing that messaging of should he stay or should he go, or even keep talking about it, bringing it up, where do we keep seeing this? Major news media.
Correct.
Why? Because they keep asking the question, not the general public. Most people, according to polling, understand the situation and don't like the fact that both candidates are on the ticket. That's the general sentiment out there, is they don't like any of the choices.
Right.
And they're pretty much dividing up by party. Not really the best situation, but if we go throwing another axe into the middle of this, right, and bring another candidate in with months to go, I think it's destabilizing, and I think it's not what the people want. Biden was the nominee. He was chosen out of a field of people. We could have chosen somebody else. I honestly don't know why we didn't. I didn't choose Biden, if I remember right.
Not in the primary.
As far as the primary goes, but it's what we got. And so, okay, then that's what the vote was, and I don't think it should be up to the party to go, okay, well, y'all voted for this in a standardly run election in the primaries, but we're gonna turn this around on you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea. But let's see what happens at the convention, right? Let's see what happens as we roll forward here. But I'm wary. The only thing I wanted to throw out there for you guys is I'm a little wary of the source of a lot of that conflict. It seems to be coming from very rich people. And I'm not trying to be classist, but very rich people, as we just went over, very rich people have different priorities than we do.
Right.
And tax breaks mean a lot more to them than you might imagine. And the news media has a whole other thing going on. I shared an article on Twitter earlier today.
They love the conflict.
Yeah, they love the conflict for sure. But there's also just the mere fact of, it actually is exactly on that same point. Just straight up yellow journalism.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Straight up William Randolph Hearst style journalism seems to be the order of the day from CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, and Fox News, of course. And this disturbs me beyond all reason, because you guys know how I feel about propaganda and about people who engage in black propaganda, as we used to call it in Scientology. The false misinformation campaigns, the bots that stream all over Twitter and social media platforms, and they're getting better at their jobs. These bots are getting scary good at sending out tweets and messaging and interacting with people in a way that makes it look like they're human. I mean, it's the technology. We are so stupid in the way we've utilized the technology that we have, as always. I'm really down on people today. I don't mean to be. I'm a hopeful person who wants good things, but man, I'm just. So anyway, so the Biden question, I think, is a question that is a conflict that is being created by a media that is more interested in clicks and money making because they're profit centers. They're not news organizations. They're profit entertainment centers. And if you recategorize news in your mind that way, and I think I've made this point before, you'll have it a lot more accurately in your head as to what you're looking at when you're looking at the news. Local news, your local news channels at the city level may be different, but if they're connected with groups like Sinclair Broadcasting, or they bring in, other content than the local content, you got to be wary of that stuff, because that's nationally syndicated misinformation campaigns that we know are broadcast across many, many local stations. So,
and to go back to Project 2025 again,
yeah,
that's another thing they want to do is get rid of public news like NPR, PBS, stuff like that. I'm not going to say they don't ever have a bias. I would be wrong, but that probably has less of one than the mainstream media.
To this day, NPR is still a fairly neutral platform that you can rely on for decent news in most cases. Certainly as opposed to something like Fox News or MSNBC these days. And you guys know I'm left-leaning, right? But I am not for any echo chamber, not anyone. And I'm not paying any more attention to any of the major news networks now, because they are not engaged in news as much as they are engaged in thought reform.
Right.
You can see it. You see it all over your news feed. If you actually just look at the headlines and is this an opinion or is this a reported event? And if it's an event, how is it being framed to me? Look and pay attention to the language, right? And how else could this be worded? What is this story actually about? What impression is this trying to deliver to me? That's news literacy, and that's really important right now. Really important. Okay, so those were the things I wanted to kind of lecture everybody on tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Lecture heard.
I hope I'm not soapboxing too hard here. I'm concerned. And I have a platform here to voice my concerns, and so I'm doing that. And I want to thank you guys for listening and contributing and being part of this. I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah.
So maybe we can, do our parts out there to try to change the conditions somehow. Okay. This weekend, let's go ahead and start wrapping up. This weekend, tomorrow, you guys are getting an awesome podcast. I can't wait for you guys to see this. This is it's an interview with a woman named Pamela Bowen, and she is a 2x2 survivor, second gen, grew up in it. We had a very interesting discussion about the cult with no name, otherwise known as the 2x2s, otherwise known as the Truth. It's got other names. It is a cult hiding in plain sight. It is absolutely fascinating. And we talked with River Wood a couple months ago about their experience with this group. This is even more and more on how it operates. The sexual abuse that goes on in this group is atrocious, and it is a predator's playground, and you will see in the show how that is that way, and she goes into some detail about that, and it's a little harrowing. So anyway, I hope you guys will check that out tomorrow, and then we will do our live Q&A on Sunday, 1 o'clock, as usual. I don't have any plans otherwise. What sources of info do you have a good feeling about, Chris? Oh, okay. So NPR, The Guardian, UK media, BBC is not The Guardian. BBC is not bad when it comes to foreign affairs. They kind of shit when it comes to reporting on the UK. That's what I'm told by UK citizens. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've heard, is the BBC is a little bit meh when it comes to reporting on national news. But when they report on international stuff, they're pretty good. So I pay some attention to them. And I look at magazines and longer form articles and stuff, The Economist and The Hill and Politico, some of these things that are biased, but you can recognize the bias, and then you can kind of there's an app called Ground News, and I'd love to get them as a sponsor. Because they deliver news, and they'll rate it on left versus right, how it's being reported and what outlets. And so you can literally see who's seeing this story. Are people on the right seeing it? Are people on the left seeing it? Or is everybody seeing it? And what is it? What messages are they delivering? So that's pretty interesting stuff.
I'd say Associated Press is usually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a basic news source, absolutely. Yeah. But again, you just have to watch the language for the bias.
Right.
That's the main thing. What's the event? What occurred? Who said what? Do you have all the information? That's why you have to look at multiple sources, because they will leave out information. And the biggest biggest thing that they will get you on when it comes to misinformation is leaving things out.
Right.
It's not necessarily that they're lying to you all the time with a blatantly false statement. Believe me, that happens a lot. But it's leaving stuff out that leaves you with a false impression, even though what you know is true. You don't have the full picture. And you don't know what you don't know. So, so you're in the dark and you don't even know you're in the dark. That's why multiple sources are so important in news literacy. Okay. What do we got?
Your bias is availability heuristic. Your judgments are influenced by what springs most easily to mind. How recent, emotionally powerful, or unusual your memories are can make them seem more relevant. This, in turn, can cause you to apply them too readily. Try to gain different perspectives and source statistical information.
Well, imagine that. What a perfectly timed logical fallacy to talk about here, right?
Yep.
Go out of your way to find sources of information you may not normally look at.
Correct.
That's how you stretch out. That's how I started stretching out my thinking about the ideological spectrum and where we're at on it and with it, right, is by going and looking at the other side. You don't have to go look up the Daily Stormer. You don't have to go that far, right? You don't have to go on 4chan. But you guys get it. Okay. And with that, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
Good night.